In the middle of the ocean there was a girl who lived upon a rock. This was not an ocean like the one you have imagined, nor was the rock like one you have imagined. The girl, however, might be as you imagined, assuming you imagined her as thoughtful, soft-spoken, and overly fond of cups.
Hi, friends. You're listening to Beyond the Pages. Today, we're going to be talking about Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Let's just start off. Tell me your initial thought when you started reading this book.
So this book, it wasn't one that we pulled. This happened kind of quite organically when we chose to do this book. My brother loves Brandon Sanderson, and he suggested that I read one of the books, specifically this one, because it was an easy place to start. And then I suggested it to you, and because I absolutely loved this book. At first, I thought it was really simple, like too easy, but it got more complex, and it's such an amazing book. What about you?
Yeah, when I first started reading this book, I was like, I don't know. Like, it's not a book that I would typically pick up and read. And the way that it was written, I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to like this book. But I was like, I have to give it a chance. So once I actually started getting into it and like understanding what was going on, I couldn't put it down, or
Yeah.
I couldn't stop listening to it because I chose to listen to this book, which honestly I highly recommend.
The narrator for this book is absolutely amazing. Michael Kramer. He's one of the narrators for all of Brandon Sanderson's books, and he is fabulous.
I was talking to a family member not that long ago about books, and believe it or not, he had a tattoo on his arm specifically for this book.
Really?
Yes. And I
Cool.
said, that is so cool. Like, I've never heard of Brandon Sanderson until now because it just wasn't in my wheelhouse or my genre that I usually go to.
Yeah, his science, or his magic in his world is kind of more science fiction based, as far as I can tell. I haven't read more of his books beyond Tress yet, but I do intend to at some point. But it does seem to be more scientific based than most of
Yeah.
the magic systems that we read about.
At the end of this book, I didn't listen to it. I listened to like 30 seconds of it, but it does go into the thought process behind the creation of this book. And it was like a bunch of little things in real life or in some of his short stories that he kind of mushed together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was written for his wife and his daughter, and it was inspired by The Princess Bride, which was kind of how I sold it to you. It was inspired by The Princess Bride, and it's a female heroine,
Yeah.
and it's
Now, at the beginning, the quote was specifically talking about the main character.
yeah, about Tress.
So let's just maybe dive into her a little bit.
Yeah, so Tress is this young woman. She's 18 or so, I think, is how old they describe her. And she has a fondness for cups, which, by cups, I mean like teacups and mugs and things that can tell a story about a different place. So Tress works as a window washer at the estate of the Duke who rules the island she lives on. And she has this friend named Charlie who he's about the same age, and he's trying to convince her that he is not the Duke's son, and failing utterly at it.
Yeah. Um, just a quick couple side notes. The island they like to call the Rock because it's literally just a rock and it's like a black rock, I think.
A volcanic rock.
A volcanic rock, yep.
No, it's like a salt volcanic rock.
Right, right. They do go into this a little bit in the book because number one, it gets into everything, and that is why she has to wash the windows so often. Number two, about the cups, the reason she likes them so much is because they, number one, they tell a story, but two, anybody who lives on this rock is not allowed to leave.
Yeah, so these cups are being brought to her by the traders who bring stuff, like get salt from the island or bring goods or whatever, or from Charlie himself. They're giving her these cups, and so she's getting a taste of the outside world from them.
Yeah. So her perception on life is very minimal. She lives with her parents and she goes to work and she has this one friend. She doesn't have any other friends because they think that she's weird.
Yeah, because the way she's described early in the book is someone who doesn't want to impose on people. And honestly, I felt that. Like,
Yes.
and she's very much the type of person who doesn't intend to cause other people any disruption to their day, not even like trouble, but no disruption to their day. She just wants to be a good little girl, essentially.
Yeah. So this story kind of begins after Charlie is kind of caught flirting with Tress by his father, and he kind of takes them away to find Charlie a wife. But Charlie promises Tress while he's gone that I'm not going to find anybody.
And I will send you a letter and a cup from every island or port that we go to. And he does for a little while.
She receives 5 cups.
I think so.
And then it just stops.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no word from Charlie.
For like a year.
But then all of a sudden, his father comes back and announces that
his heir has found a wife.
But it's not Charlie. It's his cousin.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, what happened to Charlie? Now, and Tress asks the crew of the Duke's ship, and they're like, oh, Charlie was sent off to fight the sorceress, who is this malevolent being who rules destroying ships and...
Yeah, just kind of terrorizing the oceans.
Yes.
If you can call them that.
So the other part with that, the oceans, this planet doesn't have water oceans. The oceans are made up of spores that come from I believe it's 12 moons that orbit the planet. And Tress lives on the Emerald Sea, which is verdant spores.
Yeah.
So these spores, whenever they get wet, they grow into plants. However, like wherever they are, be that if a spore gets in your mouth or if a drop of water spills on it. Silver and salt can destroy spores, so that's why the salt from Tress's Island is so important to the world.
This book is so complex in itself, but it's very detailed in helping you understand exactly what is happening. And it's humorous. So even though we're going into a lot of detail, read this book. Honestly, it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So, when Tress finds out that Charlie's gone, she decides that, okay, I have to go after him. And she has to find a way to get off the island so that she can try and save Charlie.
Which, may I remind you, is illegal to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Except for certain officials.
Yep.
And so Tress decides to work out a plan with her father and with locals to essentially smuggle her off the island, but not by putting her, say, in a barrel of mead or whatever, liquor, that would be allowed to be leaving the island, but by pretending to be a crown inspector, or a goods inspector. So she pretends to be the one to find somebody stowed away in a cask of alcohol and ends up in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, she ends on this smuggler's ship, essentially, and thrown into jail. I
She's
suppose.
poisoned and then put in jail.
Yes, yeah. Um, this section of the story is very short-lived, but we meet a character in this process,
Who is very important.
very important. It's this little talking rat named Huck.
Yeah, Huck. And so Huck is on the smuggler ship, which is called the Oots Dream. And he had been caught eating rations, essentially. And so he was put in a cage. And the only reason he was still alive was because he had shown that he could speak.
Yeah. So while on this smuggler ship, all of a sudden it's being attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes while they're on the ocean like essentially stops moving and solidifies. And when that happens, everybody's in danger.
Yeah. It's essentially like you're going from walking on water to walking on sand is the kind of comparison that's kind of given.
More like I think it's more like a bit of a quicksand.
A little bit.
Because while the Oot stream is being attacked, she needs to get off.
Yeah.
Because when the ocean like starts moving again, she's going to be sucked under and essentially killed.
Yeah, because the ship is damaged. The Oots Dream is damaged during this attack, repaired using a different type of spore called rosite, which essentially can be, or rose spores, which can be used to make patches, make building blocks, all sorts of stuff.
The rosite turns into like a crystallized.
Yeah, it's a
form.
crystal thing that can be manipulated with silver and with salt.
Unfortunately, the Oot stream is too far gone.
Yeah, it gets blasted again,
and her thought process is either I stay on this boat and drown, or I make a run for it and hope that the other boat will take me on because I'm dressed as an official.
Yeah. And so she grabs Huck in his cage and runs across the spores and manages to get to the other ship, which is called the Crow's Song. And the unfortunate thing is she can't get up onto the ship easily. She does manage to kind of climb, and then a rope is thrown down, but she hangs there for like 15 minutes while the spores are moving again.
Yeah. This is kind of, I guess it's not really the beginning, but it is kind of the beginning where you start to realize that Tress is actually really smart. She's very inventive.
Yeah.
Like she thinks kind of outside of the box a little bit, and it kind of starts making the readers think outside of the box, or at least it made me think outside of the box, going, how is she going to fix that? How is she going to do that? Like throughout the book.
Yeah. So when she does eventually get pulled on board, the captain of the ship is like, just throw her back over. But immediately, Tress decides, I'm going to figure out a way to stay on this boat and start scrubbing the floors.
Which is covered in spores.
Yeah.
Dead, gross spores.
Yeah. So she does end up getting to stay on the ship, but she is bottom of the barrel, lowest on the totem pole, like below the cabin boy.
Yeah.
Who I think we should talk about now.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 people specifically on this boat.
Named people. Specifically named
people that we'll discuss. But yes, the person that you're talking about, his name is Hoyd.
Yes. And Hoyd is the narrator of this book.
Which I actually didn't realize until like partway through this book.
Same. I didn't either. But Hoyd is we find out later on, and through what he's talking about, like through his side notes in the narration, that he is from another world, but he is under a curse during the events of the book. Mm-hmm. So he is less than helpful.
He's sort of just like the comic relief
he is
of the book.
For a lot of the book, he is just the comic relief.
Along with Ulam.
Yes, Ulam is another character who he is also from another world, and he is there specifically to watch Hoyd, because
but he acts as the surgeon.
Yeah, he acts as the ship's surgeon. But his reason for being there was to watch over Hoyd, because they knew each other before, and those two characters also appear in other works of, like, other Brandon Sanderson books in his main series.
Those two characters?
Yeah,
okay.
Hoyd and Ulam, and other characters like them.
So with Tress, we know that she's the bottom of the barrel, but she kind of makes a friend.
She makes a few friends, but specifically Fort, who is the quartermaster. And Fort is deaf. And he mostly communicates using essentially a tablet that he can type on one side, and what he wants to say appears on the other. Or when somebody speaks to him, it translates words to text on his side of the tablet, so he can communicate with the rest of the ship.
And knowing Fort, this is how she kind of
survives,
but like kind of makes her way through the ranks a little bit in order to become a little bit more important.
Yeah, so at first, as she's scrubbing the deck, she's told, you are third watch for the ship, in order of when you get to eat. And so first watch is called, second watch is called, Hoyd goes and eats, and third watch is never called.
No.
So Fort ends up saving her a little bit of food, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
But he does essentially keep her alive for the first little bit.
Eventually, she's kind of given a new task.
She takes on a new task.
Because their previous sprouter, their previous sprouter is dead.
Yes.
From that attack that we talked about earlier?
I think before the attack. He was killed.
I honestly can't remember.
I can't remember. Anyways, he's dead.
He's dead, so they have no sprouter.
Just before we go on, a sprouter is somebody who works with the spores that help the ship go on. So they are the one that
does the patches
with the rose quartz. They use sapphire spores or zephyr spores to fire cannons, which they produce blasts of air.
So her first job with these spores is to fill the pouches
for the cannibals.
And this is where we meet another friend, essentially.
Yes.
Her name is Anne, and she's the carpenter.
Yeah, she's the ship's carpenter, and she's the assistant cannon master. And Anne has serious depth perception issues. At one point, it's said that when she was training to fire a cannon, she hit people behind her, which I'm like, I get you, girl.
Now, there's just a couple of other people that we didn't mention. So there's Captain Crow.
Yes, Captain Crow is what is referred to as a spore eater. So they...
she essentially has spores living within her body.
Yeah, it's a semi-symbiotic relationship where the spores are living inside her and they are protecting her, but the spores are draining her of all of her water. Because spores to grow need water.
Yeah, or just to survive. So she has this, like, flask, I guess, and
Yeah.
she's like constantly drinking.
Yeah. So eventually the spores will kill her. And
And
but but
that's
until then, they're protecting her.
yeah. And this specific area that we're talking about is actually like 1/3 of the book, where once we get through the Emerald Sea, they kind of realize what's actually going to be happening going forward, because the captain kind of has a plan up her sleeve.
She has ulterior motives. So before we go on to those,
Yeah,
let's talk about the two other
yeah.
main characters,
So she
or
does have
significant characters.
she has a second in command, if you will.
Yeah, the first mate is Laggard. He is the first mate, and he is also the cannon master. And then
We don't like him.
We don't really like him. He's a jerk. And then we have Soleil, who is the helmswoman, who I love Soleil.
Yeah.
And her deepest desire is to find her father.
And she's kind of second after Fort for me. Only because Fort was her first friend, and Soleil kind of became her second friend.
Yeah, well, Anne and Soleil kind of at the same time.
Soleil was more like, I'm going to help you. I want you to stay. I really like you. Whereas Anne was like, we got to do this together or we're not going to survive.
Yeah. So, what we were saying about Crow's ulterior motive. So, Crow essentially makes it so that the ships that they attack, no one survives, making the crew what are referred to as dead runners, which in this world, any person that is involved, whether they know it or not, in a crime where people are killed, are guilty of murder. So anybody on that crew who is involved in killing all of the people from another ship, or anybody on another ship, are dead runners.
AKA pirates.
Yes. Well, they were already pirates technically before that, but they weren't killing people. They were just raiding people.
And this ship doesn't necessarily want to kill people.
No, most of the crew doesn't. It's just Captain Crow and Laggard, really, who are interested in killing people. Because Captain Crow wants the crew to be too afraid to rat on her and too afraid to mutiny against her, because she needs to take them into the Crimson Sea.
Yeah. Now, with this crew, I do have a little quote.
Yes.
So, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of context into the way that this book is written, it's very fun. It's very funny. It kind of plays on words a little bit.
Yeah, this is what I meant by Hoyd's comments in his narration.
So I'm just going to read a quote from the book, and essentially anybody in this book besides the 7 people that we talk about is named Doug. Whether you are a woman or a man,
They are the Dougs.
you are a Doug. So this quote is, "You'd be surprised how common the name Doug is across the worlds. Oh, some spell it D-U-G or D-U-H-G, but it's always around. Regardless of local linguistics, parents eventually start naming their kids Doug. I once spent 10 years on a planet where the only sapient life was a group of pancakes, like beings that expressed themselves through flatulence. And I kid you not, one was named Doug. Though admittedly it had very distinctive smell when the word was spoken. Doug is the naming equivalent to convergent evolution, and once it arrives, it stays. A linguistic great filter, a wake-up call. Once a society reaches peak Doug, it's time for it to go sit in the corner and think about what it has done."
Yeah, so Hoyd makes these comments about random things that are going on as well, and about himself, and about things that he understands about the world that people that are just reading this wouldn't necessarily. There is another one later on that I kind of want to read, that is very, very similar, but it's different. So the Crimson Sea is made up of crimson spores, and these spores produce spikes when they get wet. And on most of the seas on this world, the weather patterns, the rain patterns, can be tracked. Like, they move in the exact same pattern all the time, except for the Crimson Sea. And if it rains, spikes shoot up randomly.
And rain doesn't necessarily rain like you would think in this world. It's more like a lightning bolt.
Yes, absolutely. I was just trying to think of what you meant by that. But yeah, it does. It's weird, but it is very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
So they are going into the Crimson Sea to find a dragon who lives at the bottom of the sea, and this dragon is called Xisis. That's not the whole name. It is a longer name, but that's how it's referred to through most of the book. And Xisis is, like I said, a dragon who is studying the ecosystem of the bottom of the sea. And he will grant petitioners a boon if they bring him a servant. So I'm going to read that little quote about the dragon that I mentioned. It's, "The word dragon has filtered into nearly every society I've visited. But unlike the name Doug, this wasn't the result of natural linguistics. Rather, the dragons have made certain that they are known and remembered, a feat often accomplished by interacting with societies during their formative years." So another thing about the dragons that he says is, "It's commonly presumed that dragons collect hoards of wealth, and I've often wondered if this tale began because of the otherworldly metal left behind on their corpses. I've never known a dragon to be fond of riches. Ideas, though, those they do hoard. And in this area, they are misers fit for legend," which I kind of love, because it's like the difference between a bookworm and a book dragon is bookworms devour the books they read, while book dragons hoard their books and hoard it for a rainy day.
Yeah.
So Crow knows that she needs to take somebody to Xisis to heal her, because the dragons are able to remove, or at least this is what's believed, they're able to remove the spores that are currently infecting her so that she wouldn't die. Mm. And in order to do that, she needs to find somebody who is not afraid of the spores. So she decides, I'm going to use Tress, because Tress is not afraid of the spores. As the sprouter, she can't be. But she's like, no, I'm afraid of them. I just respect them and know that they will hurt me, but I can deal with that.
But kind of, there are different things in this book, and this is the biggest one, I think, where one, you might be thinking that something's going to happen one way, and all of a sudden it's kind of flipped, and it makes you think, oh, this makes way more sense.
Yeah, so as they're in the Crimson Sea, Tress and Fort and Soleil and Anne plan a mutiny against Captain Crow, because they figure out what her plan is and they want to stop it, try and get her back to prison and be like, she's the one that did this, it's her fault. But they're found out because Captain Crow is using midnight spores, which is another type of spore that's used on this planet.
It is the most dangerous.
It's the most dangerous because it forms semi-sentient beings that draw on the water in the person that created them to move around, and they can form any shape, and they can report back, or their minds are connected to the person that created them. And so Captain Crow is using one of these creatures to listen in on Fort and Soleil and Anne and Tress. And so...
But Tress herself learns how to use them.
Yeah.
So she understands as well what Captain Crow is doing and can sense that she's watching them.
Yeah, and can break the connection between them.
Yeah.
So they're found out. They don't really realize that they've been found out at first until they go to do their mutiny. And Laggart injures Soleil, and they break Fort's tablet, and Anne is kind of captured, and the captain is like, we're going down. If I'm not back in an hour, kill one of them. Mm-hmm. And so Tress and Captain Crow go into Zeiss's lair. That's hard to say. Zeiss's lair.
Essentially, they find the dragon.
Yeah.
And they kind of go back and forth as to take her.
Who's the better servant for him?
And in the end, obviously, it's Tress.
Tress ends up convincing Zeiss to let her go and take Captain Crow. And so Zeiss owes Tress a boon. And she asks, can you return Charlie to me? Because as far as Tress knows, Charlie is with the sorceress.
And that is Tress's ultimate goal through this whole book, is to go find Charlie.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Zeiss can't, because he doesn't have control over the sorceress and stuff like that.
So she asks for
three smaller gifts: a new tablet for Fort, glasses for Anne, and a note for Soleil that tells her where her father is, so that they're able to they all get their happy endings. Yeah. So Tress goes back up to the ship, and they decide, hey, Captain Crow's gone. You're captain now, Tress. And it's like, okay.
Sure.
Tress tries to convince Soleil to be the captain instead of her, but Soleil's like, no, I'm the helmswoman. You be captain.
Yeah. And she goes, okay, well then my goal is still to go get Charlie, but anybody... Essentially, if you don't want to come with me, you can leave.
Yeah, because we're going to the Midnight Sea. That is where we're going, and if you don't feel comfortable, we can turn around.
Yeah. But once they reach the Midnight Sea, it kind of hits Tress that this is really dangerous, and I can't put any of you in danger.
Before we talk about the Midnight Sea, there's one more thing that we need to talk about in the Crimson Sea, and that's Huck's betrayal of Tress.
Huck.
So Huck has been Tress's best friend through the entire story, and then we find out that Hoyd is caught throwing food off the ship, and Hoyd tells them that it was Huck that told him to do it. And so it's like, if there isn't this food that they've thrown off, means there isn't enough food to get to the sorceress's island and back to the the Emerald Sea, and they may or may not survive because of Huck. So Huck is put back in his cage.
Yeah.
Which is so sad, but it's absolutely necessary.
It's a punishment for betraying everybody.
Yeah, and Huck claims that he was doing it for Tress's own good, but he can't say anything else.
No.
So now we get to the Midnight Sea, and Tress decides, as you said, that she cannot put the crew in any further danger, so she's going to go forward by herself. Or rather, not by herself, but her and Huck.
Yeah.
Because she needs Huck's help to get into the tower. Because that's
The tower has no door. It just has this tiny window at the top, I
It,
guess.
it has a door at the bottom, but you can't open the door from the outside. You have to open it from the inside. So you have to climb
So
up
we
the tower.
think.
So we think. Well, it is true. You can't open it without permission from inside, at least.
So she gets in this little dinghy boat,
Yeah, one of the lifeboats.
and she's just hanging out in the sea, waiting for one of these creatures to come, because she wants to make sure that she can, control it before they bring the ship in, to make sure that it doesn't go down.
Yeah. And so some midnight essence creatures that the sorceress controls come upon them, and Huck says, "I'm back. Take me to the sorceress. I brought a present for her," essentially. And we're like,
And everybody goes,
"What?" And so the monsters take them back to the island. No problem at all. But Huck refuses to tell Tress why they listened to him.
The betrayal that we feel at this point is kind of like, did we see this coming?
No, we didn't. So they get to the island, and Tress and Huck are escorted to the sorceress's tower. They knock on the door, and Huck's like, "Let me in. I brought a present for the sorceress." And the door opens. And again, he refuses to tell Tress why. So Tress is taken to the sorceress. And the sorceress also is from a different world. I don't think that she appears in other Brandon Sanderson stuff.
I don't think it told us what world she was from.
But she's from another world. And so she has this advanced technology, including essentially a webcam to Fort's tablet.
Yeah.
So Tress can see what's going on the crow's song, and that's more Midnight Essence captured the crow's song.
Yeah.
But they fought back.
Yeah. Essentially, like, the last part of the book is kind of like the sorceress explaining all the different types of curses, and finding out that there's only one way to break the curses is to come back to her.
So we find out, so Tress goes to see the sorceress, and she demands that the sorceress release Charlie. And at first, the sorceress says no. And then she she says, "Okay, actually, I will give you Charlie. If you give me the 2 cups that you've been carrying that were cups from Charlie, you can have him back." And Tress jumps on that immediately. She's like, "Yes, I want Charlie back. I'll give you the cups if I can have Charlie." But she quickly realizes the thing that the sorceress gave her is not Charlie. He is something else. And she finds out that Huck is her Charlie. It was like, oh. And Huck was under a curse from the sorceress. And the way to break Huck's curse was to bring the person he loves to the sorceress to have her cursed. But Huck refuses to let Tress be cursed. And that's part of why he was saying that destroying the food was for her own good, and why he didn't want her to go to the Midnight Sea. And it's adorable, but it's so sad.
Yeah. Anyways, there's the ending of the book here. It was a happy ending.
We're not done though.
I know.
There's still the crew's arrival. The crew, like I said, they fought back against the midnight creatures, and they end up taking control of the midnight creatures and arriving on the island on site. And what they find out is that Hoyd's curse could be broken by bringing him back.
This is one that I didn't quite understand, but it's fine. Like, it happened so quickly when I was listening to it that I was just kind of like, oh, it's broken. Okay, sure.
Yeah, so essentially, Hoyd had, I guess, bet the sorceress that he couldn't get his curse broken.
Yeah. It was literally just a bet between him and the sorceress, because it turns out that Hoyd himself is a sorceress?
I will not say what he is because I don't know, but he is some sort of magical being in the rest of the
Yeah,
Cosmere.
they didn't quite explain him that well.
Yeah, Hoyd's curse is broken. He defeats the sorceress. And then he's Huck and Tress are like, well, how do we break Huck's curse? I want my Charlie back. I love Huck, but I want my Charlie back. I want a human partner, not a rat.
Hoyd is essentially like, we can't break it.
We can change it though. So we can do like a rhyming change thing, and it ends up being that
you have to bring
the one you love to their home and verse them. So do poetry. It's that's the weirdest part of this. So they take some time before they go back to Tress's Island. They spend 5 months after the defeat of the sorceress finding Soleil's father and just
enjoying life,
becoming influencing the king into because they defeated the sorceress. They get the king to agree to allow people to leave the island if they want to. However, if they stay on the island for 20 years, they get a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it becomes worth the time to stay on the island.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they go back to the island.
And she gets to see her parents again. They finally break his...
They break Huck's curse. He tells her some poetry right as they're going to the island, and it's cute.
And that's... what? The ending, I guess?
That's pretty much the end. It's Tress and her family leave the island on what was the Crow's song, but is now called Two Cups.
Yeah.
Which is so cute.
Honestly, there's a couple of things that I just... okay, let me go through it. So, the cups, I didn't really understand what the whole purpose of them were throughout the story.
It was just, I think, her connection to Charlie, and...
I guess it just, they made such a big deal about it at the very beginning. I thought it would be more to it, I guess.
Yeah, given that it's in the first line or the first paragraph of the book.
I don't know about you, but the minute we met Huck, I knew it was Charlie.
I didn't. So my brother, he was like, tell me when you figure out the twist.
And you told me that.
I said that to you as well, and I didn't figure it out until way too late.
No, I knew the minute we met Huck. I don't know what it was, but I think with you telling me...
that there was a twist?
But there were multiple different things that I was like, I knew that was going to happen. And I don't know if it was the foreshadowing in this book. It foreshadowed, and then 2 chapters later... it happened.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like telling you what was going to happen before it actually happened, which honestly I didn't necessarily love, but it was still good.
Yeah.
So
this book was, like I said, it's a very simple book. There is no, like, it is not a spicy book at all. It is meant for young adults, like teenagers kind of thing. It's similar age range to The Princess Bride. Like, there is nothing that you could consider spice at all. Like, there isn't even a kiss, I don't think, until the very end of the book.
Do they even?
I think they do, right when they...
I honestly don't remember.
I don't either, but it may.
But this would be a really good book if you were, like, going on a trip. Mm-hmm. And you could listen to it, like, with anybody. I think everybody would enjoy this book.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially young girls. This is a good book because she is a strong, independent... She ends up... She's not what you like typically think of as a strong independent woman. But she is a strong independent woman.
Yeah, like, she thinks for herself, she advocates for herself, like she she's very intelligent. There's one thing that she does that we didn't even touch on, and that is she essentially recreated a flare gun in order to
try and defeat Captain Crow.
Yeah, exactly. And that is in itself very intelligent.
Yeah, she's very, very intelligent, and she understands the danger that she is putting herself in, and doesn't want to put other people in danger, but also accepts the help of other people when she needs it, which a lot of main characters in books like this don't want to accept help when they need it, which can be a problem.
And she's very helpful herself.
Yeah.
Like she kind of uncovers a bunch of different secrets about the boat, and she is very smart in that she uses what she has to create new things. For instance, food.
Yeah.
She fixed the food situation.
Yep, because you can eat the plants that are grown from verdant spores. So that there was food suddenly, and water, it wasn't really a problem for like drinking water, because they avoid drinking water at all costs kind of thing, because the water does create the spores, or make the spores grow.
And there's just other things that we just didn't even touch on, but overall, I'm giving this book probably like a 9.8, and only because I wanted it to continue a little bit more after the sorceress.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost with every book. Like once you hit the ending, it kind of ends, but there could have always been more.
Yeah. I just finished the last Wheel of Time book, and I felt the exact same way. I was like, I want another epilogue.
Yeah.
That's I don't need a whole other book. I just want another epilogue.
Like, I don't remember the last time I finished a series and I was like, 10 out of 10. Like, the ending was great. Because you always want more.
I mean, Hunger Games, I think, would be the last one that I can think of that was a good ending.
Okay. I don't think I've ever read The Hunger Games.
Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not important for today. But anyways, The Hunger Games I thought ended really well. And this book I thought it was a really, really good book. I agree. A 9.8 out of 10. It was just so sweet and so innocent, but also so wonderful.
Okay, so I guess that's all we have for today.
Yeah.
We are going to be releasing this very soon, and we have another one up our sleeve that I think
that's going to be coming out in a couple weeks after this one is released. We're going to have another one, because this was not the book that we were supposed to be recording today.
But we hope that you really enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you enjoy this book when you read it, because you should read it.
Yeah, absolutely. You should read it, even if you're listening to the podcast before you read it. 1,000%. We didn't hit on everything. We didn't hit on most of the actual relationships between people. And it's a really, really good book. And I think a really, really good starting point for those who want to get into Brandon Sanderson's world.
Which I, for one, will be reading another one.
Yeah. So this one is a standalone book. It's one of his secret projects that he wrote in COVID times, and like I said, it's standalone, but it does take place in the same universe of all of his other books. So
just remember to tell a friend.
Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want, and check out our Instagram and our website. Those will be linked in the description box down below, because I can't remember what the actual tags are. But like I said, like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram. Check out our website for other book reviews that we've read, some that we both read, mostly books that we've read individually, and
we'll see you next time. Bye!